Hi, I'm Jonathan Black. Today I'm going to talk about CEDU, the Synanon-based boarding school that was located in Running Springs, California. I've seen a lot of content emerge lately about CEDU and other schools like it. So having spent 26 months in the program there in the 1990s, I wanted to share some anecdotes, including a James Lee Crummel story. James Lee Crummel was the serial killer and rapist who had access to us and is responsible for the disappearance of at least 3 boys while I was there. I have a story about him and I'd like to shed some light on that situation. In my follow-up video, I'm going to explain exactly what Synanon and the Sidu programs were, what principles Charles Diedrich used to create Synanon, and subsequently our Sidu experience. I figured a lot out and I'm going to share it with you, and I might need some help from some other people who were students there to help fill in some gaps. I'd like to kick this off, however, with some celebrity anecdotes. What's a conversation about Sidu without a couple of celebrity references? Sidu was in the mountains in the Inland Empire in Southern California, and it is well known that many famous people would send their unruly teenagers there. One of my roommates at Sidu was the son of one of the guitarists in the Eagles, the one who wrote the guitar solo and all of the music for the song Hotel California, among other Eagles hits. One of the members of Crosby, Stills, and Nash had a son who was very well liked at CEDU. His dad played some of their songs at the parent conference in Lake Arrowhead for my mother and about 50 other parents there. My mother is from that era, so I thought that was quite nice. I also had a friend whose cousin was Ice Cube, and this was around the time when Boys in the Hood came out. And everyone knows that Paris Hilton was there. She went there about 6 months to a year after I was there. My next story is a little more grim. It's about James Lee Crummel. It's well known that serial murderer and pedophile James Lee Crummel was allowed to work on the CEDU campus and have access to the kids there. There were 2 boys from our school that went missing and one in the nearby community that we know of who were never found again, and these disappearances are attributed to Crummel. He got into the school by working as a personal assistant for a state-appointed child psychologist that he was in cahoots with. One day, one of the CEDU staff pulled me aside and said I had an appointment in one of the rooms. I go into the room and there are 2 men in there. One of them I later identified as James Lee Crummel, and the other is Bernal Forgy, who was the child psychologist. Crummel tells me that they have good news, and they had just had an hour-long conversation with my dad, and that my parents had decided to have them, these 2 men, who I'd never spoken to before, bring me home. I knew they were lying because I had recently spoken to my parents and they had made it clear that I wasn't going anywhere. I also had the sense that these were dangerous men. So I didn't protest or make a fuss. I agreed with them, nodded my head, and I walked out of the room. I knew something was wrong and I reported it to the staff there. I brought it up also in one of the group sessions they call RAPs. And I also told the other state-appointed psychologist that was working there. Some time went by and absolutely nothing happened. No one followed up with me. I kept seeing both men on campus after that. I ended up threatening James Lee Crummel at one point, and he was very startled by that. A year or 2 after this, I had left CEDU, and the San Bernardino sheriffs caught up to him about a murder that he had done in Costa Mesa, which is in Orange County, but the remains were found in the San Bernardino mountains. He was convicted for that and sent to death row, where he hung himself in his cell at San Quentin in 2012. As far as the James Lee Crummel situation goes, I would like to believe that the regular staff that we dealt with there had no part in this. However, I haven't heard any of them address it. I have a few of them on social media and one of them on Words with Friends. None of them have made any attempt to explain their thoughts on how they feel about there being a serial killing child rapist interact with us and torture and kill some of our classmates. If any of you see this and you'd like to respond, please let me know. Personally, I was constantly getting into disputes with staff there, but other than the James Lee Crummel thing, I don't hold a grudge about all the other stuff that went on there. It was wild and very intense. but I'll give some of the staff the benefit of the doubt and say that their efforts were to try to help troubled teenagers. None of us were there for singing too loud in church. We were there for a reason. But the Crummel thing puts a big stain on the entire experience for me. Thank you for watching part 1 of my Sidu story. In my next video, I'm going to break down the program and describe exactly what we were doing there. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thank you.